The Dead Marshes. A foul fen east of the Emyn Hills, into which many elves fled during the Battle of Daggerlad. There they were slain, but their bodies were preserved, as in formaldehyde, floating in a weird soup of dank water and fairy lights. Seems the perfect spot for a murder.
So why doesn't Gollum attack Frodo here? We ask these and other questions in today's Speculative Tolkienism. So if you had to choose between the Midgewater Marshes and the Dead Marshes, which marsh would you choose?
Well, I actually would 100% choose the Dead Marshes.
Oh, why?
Yeah. Well, what would you choose before I answer?
I choose the Dead Marshes, but because they don't talk about bugs the same way that they talk about in the Midgewater Marshes.
Yeah, me too. I hate swarms of bugs.
Yep.
That would be terrible.
Yeah, but why would you choose?
Well, I mean, I hate bugs, like swarms of bugs and mosquitoes and stuff. And it's usually hot and uncomfortable. But for me, I would, even though the Dead Marshes have like creepy crawly things, they don't seem particularly dangerous. The cool thing about the Dead Marshes is it's much more scenic. It's metal,
right?
Whereas the Midgewater Marshes are just annoying.
Right.
The Dead Marshes are freaking metal.
Yeah, because there's
death.
Yes, it's awesome.
The reason I say the Dead Marshes don't seem particularly dangerous, like the creatures in them or whatever, is that I think if they had been dangerous, then Gollum would have used that. Like, let's speculate. If there was a creature in the Dead Marshes that was as dangerous as Shelob, do you think Gollum would have fed or tried to feed the two hobbits to that creature that dwells in the Dead Marshes? Like if for instance, if there was kind of like a watcher in the water.
No, I don't.
He hadn't reached that point yet, or?
No, I think that okay, if there was like a watcher in the water in the Dead Marshes, and then there was Shelob still.
There might be, by the way. We just don't know.
What?
There might be a watcher in the water in the Dead Marshes.
Right.
There might be a Kraken. We just don't know.
There's more of a chance of the ring being lost forever again, or being lost in the marshes, and than there is in Shelob's cave. You know what I'm talking about? Because he's like, don't go in the water, blah 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 blah. I mean, if the ring fell in the water, obviously it would make it. But I think if he went down there, it would be it for him.
Like if he just he was like, oh, this ring's so cool, whoa, and then he kind of it just fell into the Dead Marshes.
Yeah, but like obviously, I think any kind of creature, there's too much of a risk of losing the ring in the Dead Marshes than there are in the cave. Like the cave, I mean, granted, there's like crevices and stuff like that, or crevasses.
You mean Shelob's cave?
Shelob's cave, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that point was made that Shelob would just eat those hobbits and kind of suck them dry and leave the ring.
Right.
And then Gollum would sneak in and grab the ring later.
Right, but there's too much of a risk factor. I think if it was like set up the hobbits in the Dead Marshes or set them up in Shelob's lair, it's still Shelob's lair because Dead Marshes. There's too many.
I see what you're saying. You're saying he wouldn't do that. See, I thought you were going to say something more psychological on Gollum's part, he wasn't quite ready to do the deed yet.
No.
Do you think that's true, though? I mean, that's what I was going to say. I was like, Gollum...
Oh, no.
Smeagol's still in control.
Smeagol's still in control. Right. This is the last time...
Gollum gets more angry and more in control later as they go up through the stair.
Right. But this is the this is the chapter that Gollum starts... Smeagol starts turning back towards Gollum. Yeah, he's not ready to...
Right, but he hasn't completely... Gollum hasn't completely won over that debate yet.
No.
Because Sam catches him debating with himself.
Yeah. But what I'm saying though is if there was an opportunity Like he'd probably feel more bad about it if Frodo fell into the Dead Marshes and wasn't retrieved, and like he would. There's more of a chance for Gollum, like in a practical sense, of losing the ring in the marshes, like and it being forever out of his grasp, than in Shelob's lair. There's that's all I'm saying.
So are you saying like if the ring fell in without being attached to Frodo, like if it was just the ring fell in,
or even if the ring fell in attached to Frodo, and there's too many things going on, like under the surface of the water that Gollum might not be able to retrieve the ring.
But here's the thing, though, like the dead in the Dead Marshes are a special kind of dead. They're not just like recently dead. So Frodo would probably stick out, like he'd actually float.
He'd probably float, but again, I mean,
no, like I mean, he wouldn't be dead. He would just fall in. I mean, see, what I'm saying is like the Dead Marshes don't seem particularly like dangerous. Those dead creatures are just there as like a visual, like something visually, like a curiosity.
Yeah,
like they don't try to like bring Frodo into the water and like grab him and like pull him under like the Watcher did.
No, it's not gonna be a physical kind of thing, but it's like a mental, psychological thing where like the lights in the marshes, like don't follow the lights and don't try, like Gollum,
that's right.
Gave him fair warning.
Gollum is driven to recapture the ring more than any other instinct that he has is to recapture the ring. So, and he's been through the slimiest of pools. Gollum has. So I just think like if the ring falls in the water, he'll just be down in that muck for hours and days and weeks and months and however long it took to find that ring.
Yeah, I did
pushing
believe, but I still think
dead corpses out of his way and be like, "Excuse me."
But I still think that there's it's implied that the corpses are not quite just like, oh, they're just sitting there. I think that there's more curiosity.
There's something to them. They're like
something to them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
and
Gollum like
there was one.
Go ahead.
There's one actually funny scene where I'm jumping ahead for a second. We're going to back up, but right now it's like there's a moment where Smeagol had tried to enter the marshes.
Yeah.
Right here on 821, where Gollum says, "Who knows? Smeagol doesn't know," answered Gollum. "You cannot reach them. You cannot touch them. We tried once. Yes, precious. I tried once, but you cannot reach them. Only shapes to see, perhaps. Not to touch. No, precious. All dead." And then Sam looked darkly at him and shuddered again, thinking that he guessed why Smeagol had tried to touch them. So why do you think Smeagol tried to touch the dead?
Oh, because he was hungry. He needed some food, I'm sure. I mean, he is not above some
like, he's famished. He's famished.
Right, but yeah, I mean, but the thing is, I still think that he's better with like to me, like I always got the impression that they go deep, like the marshes and
the bodies,
there's like
because
I think
nasty.
It's absolutely nasty. It's gross, but to me, like the Shelob's lair is not watched by Sauron. I mean, you know what I'm talking about?
It seems just underground.
There's no orcs. There's nothing's coming in to disturb Gollum in his quest for finding the ring, right? Or pilfering, some dead bodies. I still think he waits to go to Shelob's lair. It's more of a sure thing.
Yeah. You could say, getting back to the question why Smeagol tried to touch them, maybe he's into necrophilia.
Yeah, come on. No, he wanted to eat. He wanted to eat. He was hungry. I refused to bring in.
He saw a dead lass that he liked the sight of. I mean, they probably don't look a whole lot different than Gollum himself, right? Gollum being all dead looking.
I think Jackson did actually a pretty good job of representing the Dead Marshes and
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it was good.
Um, certainly like with the barrenness and like the just the you know because I like I said when I'm reading these I just picture just swamp just everywhere, just like
Yeah, and mists and
Yeah.
this is creepy and like again kind of Lovecraftian, another kind of
Yeah.
Lovecraftian moment. But I
Yep.
like that image. I never even thought of that, like how deep those bodies go. And they describe how there's elves and men and orcs. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mention it. They don't mention seeing any orc corpses.
No.
Maybe they're at the bottom level. Maybe the
Yeah.
deeper down you go, the nastier and more loathsome. When I was a kid, of course, the fact that there were dead bodies or corpses in the Dead Marshes was the most salient fact about the Dead Marshes. But,
Right.
They talked a lot about the lights. A wisp of pale sheen that faded away. Others appear soon after, some like dimly shining smoke, some like misty flames flickering slowly above unseen candles. Here and there, they twisted like ghostly sheets unfurled by hidden hands. So this is recognizably from like ancient European folklore. And I think Tolkien likes to put those things in. They seem at home in Middle Earth.
So like the whole Will of the Wisp is like, oh, like he was taking existing stuff and putting them in the world of Middle Earth, in
Right.
Middle Earth, and where there's the familiar, and like this is like the practical use of like the Will of the Wisp. This is what they would do to you.
But I mean, in a weird way, Tolkien actually embeds the Will of the Wisp in like science, because the Will of the Wisp is a real phenomenon. It's basically like organic matter off gassing this like phosphorescent light that you get. It's I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things in the world, in the natural world, that glow, like lightning bugs and salamanders. The Will of the Wisp is like a phenomenon of swamps, and it's organic matter releasing chemicals into the air, into the atmosphere that glow, And so what's happening in the swamp? You have dying, decaying organic matter in these swamps because they are the Dead Marshes, and they're kind of like off gassing or whatever. So there's actually like a real scientific reason for this happening.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the old Celtic mythologies, they're just fairy lights that you follow to your doom or whatever. So I mean, he's giving almost like a more scientific justification for this stuff.
But just because there's a scientific justification for something doesn't mean that it's not fairy lights. Come on, man.
No. I'm not saying that. I mean, yeah. I mean, we're reading Lord of the Rings, for crying out loud. It's like
I know.
I'm not saying it's justifying him using it. I'm just pointing out that it's interesting that he uses it in this particular way. But I also think he likes it when he can take, ancient mythology and legend and lore and kind of weave it into like, oh, here's, if he really believes that his world that he's creating is thousands of years ago, then he'll say, well, the world I'm creating needs to be recognizable to later versions of mythology. So there has to be things like dragons and corpse candles and all these other things that people have been talking about for the intervening thousands of years. And so it just makes it seem more real.
Like we haven't even touched on the fact that what the hell was a ring wraith doing flying over the Dead Marshes? Like that's when Gollum was like, I think, was like, oh, you know what? This is a really bad idea. It's like, oh.
Wouldn't it be cool if like if the ring wraith swooped, if the Nazgul swooped down and they had to hide by jumping in the Dead Marshes?
Yeah.
And hiding under some of the corpses.
Grab a reed and like have a breathe through a reed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when all of a sudden Gollum starts becoming like Trixie, like where like it's like all of a sudden. And then Frodo starting to drag ass back there where like the ring is becoming like a physical burden rather than
Right.
like a mental burden. I think that's maybe what I was looking for. It's like it's starting to become a physical burden.
A physical burden. Yeah, definitely.
So anyway,
there's this great scene where Gollum was talking to himself. He promised to serve the master, which is Frodo, and then scheming Gollum's like, but if we was master, then we could help ourselves, yes,
yeah,
and still keep promises. So he was still serving the master to be him. It's pretty funny.
I wonder if this is like a eureka moment for Tolkien, or if it's like, oh yeah, I mean, like the whole idea that Gollum betrays Frodo, right?
Mm.
Like this is like the first betrayal. This is like the first mention of Shelob, for lack of
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, because
I think
Sam's like, who's she? Like he's thinking like he didn't know who she was.
Yeah, but also, you know, like I think the ring race, like when the wraith flew over, Gollum was like, oh, you know what, this is not good. Like they're gonna get the ring. What if Tolkien was like, how do I resolve this whole thing?
He's like, he uses that weird expression, ourselves. Let's hold it ourselves. Then we shall be master, Gollum. He says it again. So he's like, wants to be master. Make the other hobbit, the nasty, suspicious hobbit, make him crawl. Yes, Gollum. He's like going to turn Sam into Gollum, make him crawl.
Yeah.
It's like this weird, and then, but not the nice hobbit. No, Baggins. He's a good guy, but he's still a Baggins, and we hates Bagginses. So,
yeah.
But it's interesting how, like, Gollum tempts himself with the ring and imagines himself master, imagines himself the Lord of the Ring
as
again,
the Gollum,
as the Gollum of the Ring.
Yeah, no, he did like eat what was it, like eat fish every day 3 times a day. Where
Right.
you know, so you gotta dream big, buddy.
That's exactly right. And occasionally a dead person from the Dead Marshes.
Yeah.